Krishna, everybody. Dandot Pranams. Welcome to our Sunday lecture session. We have been very fortunate so far. We had so many exalted devotees. And today we have our dear, our own Rohinipriya Prabhu. So I'm sure many of you are familiar with him. Prabhu has been here many times. He came here many times and we had so many home programs. And I'm looking forward for his upcoming visit whenever COVID-19 gets out of our way and everything is normal. I'm sure Prabhu will come and give us his association. So Prabhu is a world-renowned preacher going all over the globe and preaching the message of Krishna consciousness. He is known for his Shastric understanding, and he has been to many corporate world in US as well as many prestigious universities. So Prabhu comes here and he travels around and does seminars and lecture on various topics at many places for very diverse audience. So we are very, very fortunate to have Association of His Grace Rohinipriya Prabhu. And topic today is basically we are going to learn some practical aspects of Krishna consciousness. So how we can basically live by the learnings that we are getting from Shastra and how we can exemplify the learnings that we receive from Shastra. So living by example, that was the topic. And Prabhu is the perfect speaker on that topic. So without any further delay, I would like to basically give it back to Rohinipriya Prabhu for this session. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Once again, Dandot Pranams. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. So first of all, let me thank the management, Lal Govind Prabhu and the other devotees for Ramacharya Prabhu for getting in touch with me and helping me have this presentation for all of you. Is my voice audible? Is everything
yes,
working?
Yes. Yeah, very clear.
So thank you very much. And I indeed appreciate this opportunity to be able to have this discussion with all of you, make this presentation to all of you. So Hare Krishna. I'll chant the prayers. It's online program, so Jai Radha Madhav could be a little chaotic with everyone else trying to pitch in. So just I'll get through the prayers and then I will speak and we can have some discussion after that. Reflections, comments, or any questions. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So the topic for today's discussion is, I think, living life by example. This was suggested to me by Ramacharya Prabhu. He has vested interest in this particular Vishaya, in this particular topic. So all glories to Ramacharya Prabhu. I would want to begin by telling you a joke. This is about a little girl having a conversation with her mother. So she is an only child and the mother is in her 40s, so obviously a late childbirth. So her mother is taking care of the laundry. As a 6-year-old girl, 6 or 7-year-old girl is curious because she sees that her mother has a few white hair strands on her head. So she has this bunch of black hair and a few strands of white hair. So she asks her mother, why do you have white hair on your head? So the mother, she answers back, well, every time you do something which is not correct, my one hair turns white. Some of us can relate to that, right? As parents, maybe we can relate to giving answers like that. So the girl was shocked. For some time, she was quiet and then she said, is that the reason why grandma has all white hair? So what we do, how we interact, our actions, our words, they all have an effect on people around us. Now, if one wants to live life by example, that's a very tall order. Because trying to be perfect when one is just an infinitesimally small part and parcel of God is an uphill task. But trying to fit in with the whole is a much easier goal. In Srila Prabhupada's words, what this means is the nature of the part or the constitutional position of a part is to serve the whole. So if we just understand what is a relationship with the Lord, with the other living entities, with material nature, if we try to understand our relationships, if we try to understand what our existence is, then it becomes easier to be a part of the whole. It's very easy, or I would not say very easy, but many a times, unconsciously, unknowingly, we may have an understanding of our existence, of ourself, even as followers of philosophy, because we are infinitesimally small, there is always the possibility that we can have a misunderstanding or misperception of our identity, of our existence. Well, we've heard that we have to be, we've heard that we are spirit souls. I mean, that is why most of us who are on this call here, on the Zoom call? Well, we are here because we have heard about the existence of the soul and the difference between the soul and the body. We are aware of that, and we are aware of life's goals also. But as I said, just because we are infinitesimally small and we are in a place which is called as the material world, there is always the possibility that we may have certain misperceptions, specifically about ourselves. And when we have misperceptions about ourselves, then that kind of reflects onto others and towards others too. So, another funny story or a joke would help us understand this. Or let me just quote. This is a quote that I found somewhere. You know how it is possible. There is always the possibility that there is a misunderstanding or a misperception. It may be today, it may be tomorrow, it may be 3 years down the line. It can be repetitive, it can be recurring, it can present itself randomly. Life is, till the time we have this material body, there is always going to be ups and downs. There are going to be upslopes and downslopes. So just existence in this material world makes us liable to have misperceptions. Instructions, understanding, guidance, with all of that, there is still the conception of I assimilating all of that. I assimilating the guidance. I assimilating I living according to my understanding. I assimilating the instructions that are there. I absorbing that. Personally, each one of us. So there is a nice quote which towards this particular, which helps us understand this particular situation. I try to be a nice person, but sometimes my mouth does not cooperate. That's a nice quote, isn't it? Yeah, that happens. So one part of my brain is saying, this is the right thing to do. The other part is kind of feeling all the emotions that go against what the right side of my brain is saying. Or my intelligence, what my intelligence is telling me to do. The emotions agitate my mind, cover up my intelligence. So once a boy, again another boy, some of these jokes, or a couple of jokes that I'm going to narrate, are all about, generally they would be about children. The idea is that the children are a little naive, they are innocent, they kind of have so many perceptions of the world around them, which may not conform according to the worldview. So a child, a little boy in this case, was very happy, and at school always was happily telling everyone that I'm expecting a little brother or a sister at my house. So basically his mother was carrying a child, was pregnant with a child. So the teacher would ask him, so you are very excited, what is it about? And he would say, oh, I'm just waiting for my little brother or sister to be born. One day, the mother spoke to the child The child could see that the mother's stomach was growing. So the mother said, "Do you want to touch my stomach?" And the child said, "Yes." So he touched her stomach, and the baby at that point of time kicked. So the little boy could feel the kick. The boy was shocked. The boy pulled back his hand. He said, "What's that?" And the mother laughingly said that, "Oh, he likes you or she likes you. The little one likes you." The boy said, "In the stomach?" He said, "Yeah, that's the little one." After that, the child was always quiet. The child was very quiet. Looked to be it seemed that the child was under some kind of stress. The teacher noticed that. The teacher asked the child, "What is it? Is everything all right with your mother? Is everything all right with the little baby?" The child wouldn't speak up. So finally, the teacher thought that she should try and understand what is troubling the child. So the teacher convinced the child to speak to her and said, what is it, little boy? What is it? Why are you so worried or pensive?" And the boy said, is it the baby? Is something wrong with the baby? And the boy says, "No." "Is something wrong with your mother?" And the boy says, "No." "Is there someone in your family that's not doing well?" And the boy says, "No, everyone is all right." "So what is the problem?" He says, "My mother has eaten the little baby. It is in her stomach." So the child has emotions, that those emotions are emotions of concern. But there is this misperception. Because for the child, it seems that anything in the stomach is what you eat. That is what the child has heard. That is what the child has learned, that whatever you eat is there in your stomach. So it is very important that we have the right kind of perceptions. It is very important that we have the right kind of understanding always throughout. I'm so very sorry. I'm trying to just fix this a little bit. Yeah. That is very important, to have the right understanding, the right perception. And philosophy should help us do that. Philosophy is meant us to have proper understanding. Philosophy is meant for us to be comfortable living a life based on understanding of spirit soul and service as spirit soul towards God and towards other living entities. Knowledge is not helpful when it leads to pride, it leads to arrogance, it leads to feeling of superiority, which is what knowledge generally does. A proper service attitude tempers down this aspect of knowledge. Because as soon as you have knowledge, you have power. When you have power, you feel powerful. The day you learned how to drive your car well, you felt you are a powerful person. You could feel that power in your hands. So knowledge is power. You know how they say about driving? I remember another quote about driving. You know you're officially lost when you turn down the car radio and take off your sunglasses. We understand that? You know, generally when we are lost, if you're driving, when everything is going well, you know, you have the glasses on, you have the radio turned on, or you have the music turned on, or you have the lecture turned on, the kirtan going on, and then you realize, I missed an exit. And that is when you want everyone to keep quiet. Shh, keep quiet. Let me listen to the GPS instructions properly. So the lecture volume goes down. If you have glasses on, you want to clearly see the signs now. So you take off your glasses, the glares or the sunglasses, you take it off. Because now you're officially lost. You should realize that you're officially lost. So it is very important to know our shortcomings. It is very important to know our weaknesses. And it is a good sign if we are able to accept these as our challenges in life, ready to face them and overcome them. That needs a little amount of humility, a quality that don't sell in the stores. You cannot order humility on Amazon. Please, can you send me a box of humility every day, 1 teaspoonful? Real knowledge, where we are aware of Krishna and Krishna's devotees, especially the advanced souls, the liberated souls. We know them to be more knowledgeable, to have better realizations, brings in humility. If you're traveling in the Rockies, like I used to travel a lot in the Himalayas, and the Himalayas sometimes they are just barren mountains. You are trekking from one place to the other, like you're trekking from, let's say, Joshimath to Kedarnath, or from Badrinath you have to trek to Swargadwar. These are various places in the Himalayas. It's like a day's trek. If you're good, if you have good stamina, you could do it in half a day. But it's an overnight stay. So these are journeys where sometimes you are just the only person in the wilderness. It's like the Wild West. If you're in the Wild West, you realize how small you are, and you realize the vastness of the creation around you. That is reality. That is real knowledge. Real knowledge is reality. It takes just one wrong turn. It takes just missing one exit to be lost. Like there's this dentist quote that I would like to quote right now. My dentist told me I need a crown. I was like, yeah, now they understand. Crown. So my understanding of a crown is that a king's crown, something on my head, and I feel that that is what I'm worth because of my big ego. It happens. And so when the dentist says that I need a crown, I'm like, this person really knows what I'm worth. This person knows how good I am. Misperception. So reality checks are always important. So I'm not going to go into the details because there are so many seminars and lessons on that, webinars, seminars on that. It's just that we are trying to touch on these topics again so that it becomes fresh in our minds and in our consciousness again. So my dentist told me I need a crown, and I'm like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Now you get it. That's who I am. It's so very important not just to understand what is my existence, but to understand one's existence in relationship to service. Being part and parcel of Krishna, the nature of the living entity is to serve the Lord. And since the Lord is everything, the nature of the living entity is to serve everything. Service is paramount. We may kind of put it into open quotes, service, devotional service, close quotes, like that. We may kind of put it within quotes. But Srila Prabhupada would speak very simply he would say that the nature of the living entity is to serve. That is what he would say. He would give the example from the Puranas, the Bhagavad Puran. He would say, just as you water the root of the tree, it nourishes all the branches, the twigs, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits on that tree. So the root, when you offer service to the root means in one sense all of existence. So Krishna as the person who plays the flute, Krishna as the Supreme Lord who interacts with his devotees, and it also means Krishna who is expanded as other living entities too. Krishna who is expanded as the elements of material nature. And the more one's consciousness expands to have this vision of Krishna, the more we find that we awaken our ability to be equipoised in all kinds of dualities. Again, let me go back. My own personal experience when I would be traveling in the Himalayas. I've traveled to so many places, sometimes alone, sometimes with a few devotees, just 4 or 5 devotees, trekking, like walking kilometers, miles and miles and miles. The only thing that we were sure of is that after a couple of hours, it could be even 3 to 4 hours, if we go on walking, if we don't give up, then we would reach a settlement, we would reach a place. Because these are remote locations in the Himalayas. We would reach a settlement, we would reach a human settlement, we would reach an ashram, we would reach a small town where we could get water, where we could get some shelter. Otherwise, it was just the mountains with the valley down. So the feeling of being lost was all constantly there. Because how much more lost can you get when you're all alone in the mountains? So the feeling of being lost was always there, and that made helplessness seem real. So the call towards Krishna, that my dear Lord, whatever be the consequences, live or die, let me just remember you. Because the entire journey is to visit a holy place. In today's times, you take a plane ticket, you go to Vrindavan, you have a nice warm room there, you have hot food waiting for you, or if it is the summer, you have something cool to drink. Life is easy. And it's all right. You don't need to accept unnecessary austerities. It could make us kind of fall back into a state of slumber. You know what is a state of slumber? When you're asleep, when you feel sleepy, sleep makes you feel very comfortable. It makes you forget all of your challenges, distractions. Sleep does that. Otherwise, sleep is not helpful. So the nature of sleep is that it makes you forget everything. So you feel comfortable with sleep. So when there are material facilities in our life, there are chances that we can go into a state of slumber. We can, the fire that had been burning within us towards rendering service, towards being focused on our existence as spirit soul, that could lose its intensity. So it's very important. It's very, very important to find ways and means of doing service. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, at least we have examples from their own lives that are quoted to us. It's like they were so much concerned that we render service. Sometimes we find quotes of Srila Prabhupada and even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, we find their quotations where they say that even on Ekadashi, you should eat, but do service. Well, should I just sit down and chant? Yes, if you can do that in the mood of service. Serve the holy names. Many times we may want to do that as a sense of achievement. Or let me chant these many rounds, and it's good. There should be a goal in life. However, if the sense of achievement is the only thing that we feel after some intense austerity, the window of opportunity has been lost. What is a window of opportunity? To feel grateful for having been able to render that service. Whether it is of chanting the whole day. And Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta could understand that considering the rajasic nature, the nature of our senses to be so active in the material world, we would rather go out and do service. And if we need the strength for it, then we should eat. We should eat properly on the days of fasting too. What is preferable is you fast, you render service, and feel grateful at the end of it, along with a sense of having, it was a special day, so there was some achievement that one got. And procrastination basically is what brings us into the realm of slumber. Like many times we hear that procrastination is not a good situation to be in. But procrastination actually, in reality, we seem to be quite okay with it. When there's no one else around us, when we are all alone, procrastination seems to be okay. Because why? Because it always gives you a goal for tomorrow and nothing to do for today. That's what procrastination is about. I'll do this tomorrow, so you have something to do tomorrow. Like, wow, I have goals for tomorrow. And for today, nothing to do. So life is going well, everything is all right. So there is a story. This is a folk story, you know. It is just something that has been going around for a long time. If we look for a reference for it in the scriptures, in the Puranas, we may not find it. But it's a popular story, a folk story. It's about a Lord and a devotee of the Lord. So the Lord and his devotee are passing down a street. And there they're just walking down a street. And coming towards them in the opposite direction is a very poor beggar. So the devotee of the Lord feels compassion for the poor beggar and asks him what his situation is, what are his needs. So the beggar just needs money for his food. So the devotee offers the beggar some gold coins. Not a large sum, but to the beggar, gold coins, the beggar is like, this is a lot. Just a few gold coins. So the beggar is feeling very relieved, and the devotee feels very happy, and the Lord smiles. On his way back to his house, The beggar is looking at the gold coin in his hands, in his palms. Some thieves notice it. So they come up to him from behind and mug him. So the beggar gets mugged and he loses those gold coins. So again, he is impoverished now. The next day, the Lord and the devotee meet up with the beggar again, and the devotee can see that the beggar is still impoverished. So he asks the beggar, what happened? Did you eat well? And the beggar said, no, sir. I lost all the money. I was mugged. So the devotee thought that, okay, I have this diamond ring with me. So let me give him that. Let's say a ruby. Had a ring with a ruby on it. So he said, let me give him that. And well, since it's just one ruby, maybe he could keep it carefully and not lose it and use it. So the beggar is very careful now. He is very careful to not let anyone know that he has this ruby with him. He goes home and not wanting to lose it, he keeps it in a safe place. So the safest place he feels is an old earthen pot. Old pots, who cares about them? So he places that and he goes off to sleep for the night. Early next morning, his wife, who always would go to the river to collect water with earthen pots or in earthen pots, she took an earthen pot and went to the river to collect water. As she was coming back, a few boys crashed into her. The pot fell down and it broke. So she comes back home. She needs water for cooking. So she takes the old pot to the river. And obviously, we know what happens now. The ruby in the pot gets swept away in the waters of the river. So that day again, the Lord and the devotee meet the beggar. And the devotee asks the beggar, what happened? And the beggar narrates everything. And the devotee is like, I should stop trying to tell people, have a nice day. I should just tell people, let your karma sort things out. Isn't it? Sometimes, with philosophy, armed with philosophy, we can be brutally honest. I mean, who knows how the day is going to be? So let's just say, hey, whatever your karma has in store for you. So the devotee looks at the Lord. The Lord smiles, and the Lord takes 2 copper coins, which are not worth a lot, but they have some value. The Lord takes 2 copper coins. It's like the Lord takes like $1 and gives it to the beggar. So the beggar is okay with it, some money. He's not as excited as previously. However, the beggar is thinking that this money is really not worth anything. Those 2 copper coins are really not worth even getting a veggie burger. They wouldn't even get him a veggie burger. They wouldn't even get him 1 tomato. So the beggar, being a beggar, he kind of just kept hoping that he would get some more donations. He walked on ahead, was besides the river, and he saw a man who was fishing, had captured a fish, and the fish was struggling. So the beggar felt compassion for the fish. So he said, anyways, these 2 copper coins are not going to get me much, but at least I could try and see if I can purchase the fish. So he offers the 2 copper coins to the man, and the man is ready to give him the fish. So he gets the fish. So he puts the fish in a pot of water that he has. He has a water pot that he carries with him. He puts the fish within that. Finding water again, the fish feels like throwing up. So the fish throws up. And out of the fish's body comes out a ring. The beggar is surprised and happy beyond anything that he could imagine. So he looks at the ring and he shouts loudly, I have found, I can see. The thieves that had mugged him a couple of days back, they were passing by. The thieves feel that, oh, he's recognized them. So these are thieves that don't want to be recognized. So they come and they fall at his feet and say, please, we are very sorry. We'll give you back all the gold coins. So he gets back all the gold coins. Well, the Lord and the devotee get to know of the turn of events. So the devotee said, my dear Lord, by a practice of devotional service and by your association, I also felt that I should help the beggar. Just as you want to help all the living entities, I also felt like that. So what went wrong? When I offered help, the beggar lost everything. When you offered help, the beggar regained back everything. And the Lord simply smiled. He said, when you offered help, that is very good. It is my quality is reflecting of you. However, when the beggar got help from you, the beggar became selfish. The beggar was concerned about his own interests. When I offered the beggar help, the beggar's instincts of seeing others' needs were still intact. Because the misperception that is born out of selfishness did not arise within him. And when he tried to help someone else, things happened. When he tried to be selfish, those are the kind of energies that got attracted to him. So when we speak of wanting to live by example, it has to do with the modalities, that it has to do with certain do's and don'ts. At the same time, what will make this machine work, this machine of sadhana bhakti work, when you do sadhana, when we follow regulative principles, the oil that helps this run well is when we want to render service in a way that it awakens the quality of rendering service in others too. Another funny story before, I would like to narrate something from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So a preacher was talking to his congregation. Something that we are used to, right? There's a congregation, they get spoken to. So the preacher was trying to inspire all of them that one must try not to feel inimical towards anyone else. And the preacher presented so many perspectives where everyone kind of felt that these are reality checks for them. And after those perspectives, the preacher asked, so how many of us here feel that we are suffering from this ailment of feeling that somebody is my enemy, I don't like someone else? 50% of the congregation, they raised up their hands. So the preacher, he felt that he needs to give another 1 hour of lecture. So the preacher got into it more. He spoke, gave various other perspectives. After another hour, he asked a question. So now how many of us feel that we need to work on this? 80% of the congregation raised up their hands. The preacher put in another 2 hours of efforts. At the end of it, everyone raised up their hands that they need to work on it, except one old lady, very elderly lady. She was like in her 90s. And by now the preacher was done. So the preacher felt so very happy that at least there was one person that was really Ajata Shatru, did not have any enemies. So the preacher invited the old lady onto the dais, in front of everyone. And he said, it is so nice that in today's times, we have at least one example of somebody who does not have any enemies. You have lived a life, a full life. You have lived like 90 years, and in 90 years of your life, you have no enemies. Wow. So what is your, how did you do it? What is your formula? And the lady said, they're all dead. So the lady was trying to speak about the present. She had outlived all of them. That is how she understood that. So many a times, when we kind of become full with ourselves, which is something that happens whenever we lose focus, whenever we get caught up with other goals in life other than service. It happens. Then the only reason we feel that we are doing well is because we have outlived others. Oh, that devotee is no longer there. When I joined the movement, there were 50 of us. Right now, there are just 4 surviving. Things like that. You get to hear that a lot. It's not easy to do deity worship. Nobody survives beyond 2 years, especially washing the pots, cleaning the vessels. I've seen so many come and go. I'm still there. So many a times we may feel that, well, I kind of am doing good because I've simply outlived the others. Which may not be really true. Why? Because we have to always see from the perspective of scriptures. Our realizations always have to be seen through the lens of the scriptures, and not just those parts of the scriptures that we like. Every part of the scripture. So now, having spoken about what should be our focus in life, what are the distractions, how do we live our life such that it is an example, at least for ourselves. Every day when I look into the mirror, I feel happy with the person that I see in the mirror. I feel comfortable with the person that I see in the mirror. Not that I feel I feel pride about my achievements, but I feel that, yeah, this is a nice person. This is a person that is focused on service. So an example for oneself and maybe few others too. So there are 2 pastimes from Lord Chaitanya's life that I would narrate. And I would leave this open-ended. I'm not going to give any conclusions or directives, or I don't feel that I have the ability to do that. I have confidence in all of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness that we can draw the right conclusions. We come to the river is flowing, everyone sees the river. If we don't see the river, there's somebody who points out the river to us or points out the well to us. So the person who points out the well to us is just pointing out the well to us. The water that we draw from the well or the water that we collect from the river is our own achievement. That is what we have to do. It's not that, somebody tells us, this is the amount of water that you should be drawing from the river or the well. And those are, with Google here, those days are gone. You can find everything on Google search. So I'll kind of leave it open-ended, and I feel that these pastimes are very inspiring personally. There are just two pastimes that I would like to narrate. One is when Lord Chaitanya, actually both of these pastimes are when Lord Chaitanya has, after he has taken sannyas and he has gone to Jagannath Puri. The first pastime is interesting. It's about the Lord being visited by one of his spiritual master's god brothers. So Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master is Ramachandra Puri. Sorry, Ishwara Puri. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master is Ishwara Puri, and Ishwara Puri's god brother is Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri comes to visit Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. So please don't get confused with the Puri thing. Jagannath Puri is a place. Ramachandra Puri is a person. Lord Chaitanya is the spiritual nephew, you can say nephew disciple of Ramachandra Puri. Or he is the spiritual uncle in one sense. Just because he's related to Ishwara Puri. So he comes visiting. Now Ramachandra Puri, he has a lot of interest in his own practices and specifically the practices of others. He was very much interested in doing data mining in those days. Gather data. Which devotee is doing what, how much are they eating, how much are they chanting, when do they sleep, where do they go, whom do they meet, what do they talk. He's like, every time he meets someone, he feels that I should get all information and I should kind of counsel people. So he started trying to get data about Lord Chaitanya. And his typical way of trying to counsel people was he would try to point out where they were lacking. And most of the times he would be very critical about it. With Lord Chaitanya, he did not find any lackings. That kind of made him a little agitated. One day, he heard about Lord Chaitanya accepting invites from other devotees, and the devotees told the general news was that Lord Chaitanya would just eat what was needed, even though a lot was offered to him. The devotees would offer him sweets too. So somehow or the other, Ramachandra Puri lashed onto that point and he said, oh, it is not good for a sannyasi to be eating sweets, too many sweets. Something he needed to. He felt he should be counseling Lord Chaitanya. But as of yet, he did not bring it up front to Lord Chaitanya. Till one day, when he came to Gundicha, Lord Chaitanya's residence. Now in those days, today when you go to Gundicha, you know there's a nice floor to it. It's like a small room in this huge bungalow in this huge house. In those days, it was just mud floor, earth with mud walls. A small room. And it was not that because people were poor, because Cement was not heard of. Tiles wasn't necessary. Mud, earth in various forms was very helpful, even from the point of view of good health. So when you have earth, or as it is said in the Western world, dirt, that is what they call it, or it is a dirt floor, especially in America. The first time I heard it, I grew up with British English. So I'm like, why did they call an, what we would say as mud? Why would they call it as dirt? Because for us, dirt would be dirty. British English. So anyways, mud floors. So it's mud, when you have mud establishments that have the earth as its cementing substance, it also becomes the homes to a lot of creepy crawlies, insects, ants. So Ramachandra Puri comes to visit Lord Chaitanya at Gundicha, and there he sees ants, and he says, oh, ants in a sannyasi's room. There must be sweets that have crumbs, sweet crumbs that have fallen here. So in seclusion, he eats sweets. And he became critical on this premise directly on Lord Chaitanya's face. So Lord Gauranga, he accepted that humbly. And the next day, he told his servant that please send out the message that I will be accepting their invitation for prasad, but now I'll be eating half of whatever was being offered to me. I'll just be accepting half of it. So previously, they would offer him a pot of Lord Jagannath's prasad. They would buy the pot from Anand Bazaar, from the temple. And Lord Chaitanya had a fixed price that they could only buy pots of certain sizes, which would cost only so much. So that was all he was very regulated. So now he would accept only 1/4 of a pot. All the devotees who loved Lord Chaitanya and who wanted to feed him, because you know how it is when you love someone, you want to feed them. Their hearts simply sunk. News traveled around. The devotees were unhappy with how Ramachandra Puri had been critical of Lord Gauranga, and they said, well, they understood that what he was speaking was from the scriptures, but the way it was being presented was unwarranted. It wasn't really needed. And Lord Chaitanya's servants, personal servant was Govinda, and Kashishwar was his personal bodyguard. They would only accept what was a remnant of Lord Chaitanya. So now even they were eating half of what previously they were consuming. And since Lord Chaitanya was eating half of what he was previously having, all the devotees decided to follow that. So the news spread, and Ramachandra Puri came to hear of it. So he went up to Lord Chaitanya and he said, will you see, a sannyasi should be very, very strict in one's habits. At the same time, if you give trouble to the body, that is not very healthy for self-realization. So you should eat as much as is whatever is needed. Don't try to follow fake renunciation. So now he goes up to Lord Chaitanya and he tries to explain to him that why he should not try to fall into the trap of artificial renunciation. Lord Chaitanya, with folded hands, he simply says, you are a teacher. I'm just a child, a student. And I'm so very thankful to you that you're giving me good instructions. So Ramachandra Puri says, it's all right, and he leaves. After a few days, Ramachandra Puri leaves Jagannath Puri, and all the devotees heave a sigh of relief. And everything goes back to normal. So here is Lord Chaitanya trying to live by example. He thought that that is actually what also happened was before Ramachandra Puri's second visit to Lord Chaitanya, where he spoke about artificial renunciation. Some of the elderly devotees like Paramananda Puri, who is also a god brother of Ramachandra Puri, he visited Lord Chaitanya and he said, try not to be affected by what my god brother Ramachandra Puri speaks, because I know about him. His nature is that he is critical of other people's activities, their habits. And if there is nothing to be critical about, then he tries to find a way how he could create a weakness in them. And Paramananda Puri says that Ramachandra Puri would feed a person. You'd invite a person and feed that person. And when the person was full and would say no, then Ramachandra Puri would still feed him more. And wanting to satisfy the host, when the person would eat much more than what was comfortable, Ramachandra Puri would then criticize, just see how much this person eats, and advise him and counsel that person that you should be very strict in your principles. So he said that, please don't be affected by what Ramachandra Puri speaks. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, I'm thankful to you that you are concerned about me. However, I feel that Ramachandra Puri is my well-wisher. How can it be wrong for a sannyasi, for a practitioner, for somebody who has accepted regulative principles in their life? How can it be wrong when they're reminded of those principles? So a reminder of those principles is all right. That is all. That is how I look at it. So time and again, that is what is helpful for us, to remind ourselves of why is it that we are practicing Krishna consciousness. It is so that one fine day we can look and see the beautiful son of Nanda Maharaj standing in his threefold bending form with a flute in his hand. And when we see him, we want to serve him. Our heart runs towards him to serve his lotus feet. That is our goal in Krishna consciousness. And till the time we have this material body, we use our senses in activities which help us keep the flame of this, the emotion of that service attitude alive. A good service, a healthy service attitude alive. That is how we remind ourselves that till the senses are there, these material senses are there, we render service knowing fully well that we have to do it in the right frame of consciousness. The right frame of consciousness is that the service attitude, the understanding that the gratitude that we should feel that we have this opportunity to render service should be so deep felt that that flame should stay alive constantly. And then finally at the end of life, when we are ready to give up this mortal frame once and for all, we look forward to seeing the beautiful Lord and all his devotees and the spiritual master And as soon as we see the beautiful form of the Lord, whatever may be our eternal service, that it is like an ocean that bursts out of our hearts. So that is the goal in Krishna consciousness. So Lord Chaitanya, he explained that as a practitioner, as a follower, as somebody who follows practicing regulative principles, one should live life based on scriptures. One should try to reflect on our realizations through the lens of the scriptures, through the lens of the teachings of great souls. Another incident from the Chaitanya Charitamrita is about Lord Chaitanya when he wanted to see Lord Jagannath. So one day Lord Chaitanya was resting and he dreamed of Krishna. He dreamed of Krishna performing the beautiful rasa dance. So he saw Lord Krishna standing in his threefold bending form, Tribhanga Lalit, flute to his lips. He was wearing his yellow garments, Vaijayanti Mala, garland of forest flowers, his pitambari dress. He looked as enchanting or even more enchanting than hundreds of cupids. And then he saw Krishna being surrounded by all of the cowherd girls of Vrindavan, each one of them more beautiful than all of the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha. And then he saw Lord Shyamasundar dance with the supreme goddess of fortune, the goddess of Vrindavan, the queen of Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani. Seeing this, Lord Chaitanya was overwhelmed with transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, and he thought, now I am with Krishna in Vrindavan. It was time for Lord Chaitanya to wake up, get up. He was still lying down. This wasn't a regular thing. Govinda, his servant, seeing that the Lord had not risen as yet, he goes up to wake up the Lord. The Lord understands that he had only been dreaming, and there is some feeling of unhappiness within him because now he's awake. So he performs his morning duties, and then towards the later part of the morning, he goes to Lord Jagannath's temple. He stands behind the Garuda column with tears in his eyes. It is said that if you go to the Garuda column, the Garuda Stambha, Jagannath's temple, then you may look around at the floor, and there you'd find there's a lot of dents, there's a lot of holes in the floor of the temple. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that there was a particular hole in the floor that had formed because of the incessant tears that Lord Chaitanya would shed, and the floor had melted to accumulate the tears of Lord Gauranga. So Lord Chaitanya was standing right beside the Garuda Stambha. Hundreds upon thousands of people were coming to take darshan. If you've been to Jagannath temple, then the darshan mandapa, the darshan hall is huge. At any given moment, hundreds of people are there. And it is a floating crowd. So the crowd was moving from one direction to another in front of him, and Lord Chaitanya was just gazing upon the beautiful forms of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra Devi. Suddenly, an Uriya woman, a little elderly, old, skinny Uriya woman. If you've been to Orissa, the people there are quite short. And they're small in their height. The length of their bodies are quite small. And they are not really very fat, except maybe the pandas, some of them. They're all quite skinny. I wouldn't say skinny, but lean. And the elderly ladies, a simple elderly lady in Orissa, Utkal Dham, typically is quite skinny. And this is from 500 years ago. So this thin elderly lady from Orissa, an Oriya lady, she is not able to catch a glimpse of Lord Jagannath because short height, the crowds, so she is not able to look above the heads. So in her eagerness, unable to see Lord Jagannath, she climbed the column of Garuda. She climbed the Garuda Stamba with her feet on the Garuda Stamba, and to get a grip or to get a foothold, she places one of her foot on Lord Chaitanya's shoulder. Lord Chaitanya is unaware of this. Govinda sees that. And immediately Govinda, Lord Chaitanya's personal servant, shouts mildly at her and tells her to get down. What are you doing? You are putting your foot on a sannyasi's shoulder and you're placing your foot on the Garuda column. When Govinda starts mildly chastising her or scolding her mildly in a slightly raised voice, Lord Chaitanya's meditation is broken. So he looks at Govinda and Lord Chaitanya chastises him. Lord Chaitanya calls Govinda an uncivilized man. He says, do not forbid this woman to climb the Garuda Stamba. Let her see Lord Jagannath to her satisfaction. The old lady by now had come to her senses. She quickly climbed back down to the ground and seeing Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, immediately begged forgiveness at his lotus feet. Lord Chaitanya, Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami says, the Bengali is beautiful, and I'll just chant the Bengali verse. Tara arti dekhi Prabhu kohito lagila, eto arti Jagannatha more nahi dila. Lord Chaitanya is in this mood of reflection. Lord Chaitanya, seeing the eagerness of the old lady, he says, "Oh Jagannath, why have you not bestowed so much eagerness upon me?" Jagannathe avishta ihara tanu mana prane moras kandhe pada diya che taho nahi jane. She has fully absorbed her body, mind, and life in Lord Jagannath. Therefore, she was unaware that she was putting her foot on my shoulder. Aho bhagyavati bandi ihara paya ihara prasade aiche arti amar vahoya. Alas, how fortunate this woman is. I pray at her feet that she favor me with her eagerness to see Lord Jagannath. During the early morning, Lord Chaitanya had been envisioning the beautiful rasa dance. And then he had been broken out of that state of dream. So he was feeling a little unhappy that he could not see Nanda Nandan in person. He could not see the form of the Lord in person. So, wanting to see Krishna, his eyes were constantly searching for Krishna. And that was his mood when you're standing at the Garuda Stambha. Just as the residents of Vrindavan, their eyes always searched out for Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya was gazing at Lord Jagannath. His eyes were searching for that beautiful boy, the son of Nanda Maharaj. So as soon as he saw the Oriya lady who had gotten down the Garuda column, the Lord returned to his external consciousness. And he saw the original deity forms of Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Lord Balaram. And when he saw the deity forms of Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balaram, according to the Gaudiya theology, this was the form that Krishna assumed along with his brother and sister in Kurukshetra. And therefore, the gopis within their minds wanted to bring him back from Kurukshetra to Vrindavan. As soon as he saw the forms of Lord Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra in his external consciousness, Lord Chaitanya thought that he had come to Kurukshetra. So since the time he was seeing the beautiful rasa dance, and throughout the morning when his eyes were searching for Krishna, he was looking out for the son of Nanda Maharaj, Shyama Sundar, Krishna in Vrindavan. And when he saw Lord Jagannath, Lord Chaitanya in his internal mood, he started wondering, have I come to Kurukshetra? Where is Vrindavan? And just as a person who has lost a very precious jewel recently and becomes agitated because of that loss, Lord Chaitanya similarly grew very agitated and he became a little morose and returned home. He sat down on the ground and started marking the ground with his fingernails as if etching out Krishna's name or form. His eyes were blinded by tears which flowed like the river Ganga, the river Ganges. Oh, thought Lord Chaitanya, I found Krishna, the Lord of Vrindavan, but I've lost him again. Who has taken my Krishna? Where have I come? What is this place? And Lord Chaitanya went into his internal mood. So here we see that Lord Chaitanya the Supreme Lord has appeared to taste the mood of a devotee and also through his very life help us understand the various transitions that a practitioner goes through. So with Ramachandra Puri, Lord Chaitanya's interaction was to help us understand how to follow a life of regulative principles. And in this particular example, we see, especially with the Oriya lady, where he is hankering and wishing that he had the same kind of eagerness as this lady had for seeing Lord Jagannath. So that spontaneity, that spontaneous attraction for Krishna is the quality of a devotee who has fully awakened one's desire to serve Krishna without interruption and without motivation. Ahaituki apratihata. And when that reawakens fully, that is what makes the living entity happy. And that is why this is called as the topmost religion or the only dharma, the topmost state of existence or the real state of existence of all the living entities. Savai pungsang paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaje ahaitukya pratihata yatma suprasidati. The topmost religion is one which brings us to the state of uninterrupted, unmotivated service unto the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, are there any reflections, comments? It's almost 8 o'clock in St. Louis.
We can take few questions, Prabhu, but thank you so much. And it was, excellent, filled with, nectar and very deep and very enlightening. I'm so fortunate to hear Hari Katha such a, nice way from your Lotus Mouth, Prabhu. I really loved it. And, it remembered some of the, beautiful time that I had spent with you when I had, similar experience hearing, pastime so nicely. So I feel immense pleasure and fortunate uh, by hearing these pastimes. So thank you so much. If you do not mind, maybe we can take one or two questions. I know it will be a little bit late, but maybe if anybody has anything that they would like to ask, please go ahead and devotee, unmute yourself and you can talk to Prabhu directly and ask your questions if you have anything. We can take at least one or two. So kindly do not hesitate. If you have anything, please go ahead and ask. Thank you.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. This is Krishna Das. And thank you for the enlightenment lecture, Prabhuji. And so a lot of things to learn. So my quick question actually here, Prabhu, maybe I still to my ignorance or something like that, but I just want to know, like the mood that we often hear while reading or listening any of the pastimes, devotees. Like one of the example is like the story that you just told about that Bengali lady, and she just often take darshan of Lord Jagannath, and so that mood looks quite like difficult to achieve. Like that's we know that's the ultimate stage that somebody needs to strive for, somebody needs to look for, and somebody also need to practice for. But sometimes it feels quite unrealistic in a way, and thinking that how can we achieve that state of that mood? Is it something by just doing a sadhan bhakti that will show some kind of external like Krishna blessing is definitely needed? We know that. Something quite challenging for me that I'm thinking of, so just need some guidance over there, like if I'm clear in my question.
Thank you for asking a question. So the question is related to the last part of the lecture where we spoke of the pastime of, it is Uriya lady. Sometimes if you come to Orissa, they will be very particular. Oh, we are Oriyas. So some cultural differences between Bengalis and Oriyas are there. So this lady from Orissa, and it seems that what is being hinted is a very, very exalted platform of Krishna consciousness, a very, very high platform of Krishna consciousness. So the question being asked is just the to a practitioner of Krishna consciousness, such an understanding of existence is very daunting. It seems to be very daunting. It seems to be quite a steep slope and uphill task. So how is that possible? Is it possible just by sadhana bhakti? That is a question being asked. I hope I have rephrased the question.
That's
exactly.
That's correct.
Yes. Yes. So the answer is yes. Sadhana bhakti is supposed to. Sadhana bhakti is an aspect of devotional service or bhakti. That is why it is called as sadhana bhakti. Sadhana bhakti is about following regulation. Hence, it is called as sadhana. It means there is a goal to be achieved, and for that, you have to be focused. You have to be a sadhaka. Sadhaka means one who's focused. So, when we focus ourselves towards the goal of life, which is Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundar, or it could also be the Panchatattva, because Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Lord Chaitanya is the combined form of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. And this form is more magnanimous in its bhava aspect, and it's in the way one can relate to the Supreme Lord. In that aspect is more magnanimous. So that is the goal. And once we develop the hunger for it, and the hunger would only be understood when there is a taste for it. So right now, sadhana bhakti will help us be relieved of the jaundice that is covering our spiritual tongue from tasting the sweetness of the Lord's holy names. So if we do it in a regulated way, sincerity, utsahat, nishyat, dhairyat, that verse from the Nectar of Instruction should be worn around our neck. We should always be equipped with that verse. As a sadhaka, as a practitioner in sadhana bhakti, with all those tools, those 6 tools, when we chant the holy names of the Lord, then this cures us of the jaundice, which is covering our spiritual tongues from tasting the sweetness of the holy names. And once that jaundice is gone, once we are cured of this jaundice, as stated by Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, then the taste ignites more hunger. This is how it works logically. Even if you are full, if you taste something that is really excruciatingly tasty or intensely tasty, you develop the hunger for it. And once we have the hunger, then we spontaneously are attracted by that which satisfies our hunger. There is a spontaneity to it. So definitely sadhana bhakti will bring us to the platform where we can spontaneously feel that hunger for serving Krishna in the spiritual world, in the spiritual existence, in the spiritual reality, in Vaikuntha, in Goloka. So it is not really a daunting task. It is a goal that has to be achieved. What may seem daunting is sadhana bhakti. Unfortunately, sometimes we kind of misinterpret one for the other. So what could be a little daunting or an uphill task would be the challenges of material distractions. As conditioned beings practicing Krishna consciousness, we are perfectly equipped to overcome those material distractions. So if we focus on sadhana bhakti, knowing that the goal is to achieve, just knowing that the goal is to achieve. It is like if we focus on studying every day, knowing very well that at the end of the year, we have to give the final exam. Then towards the end of the year, we are very well prepared to give the exam, even though still it is an uncertainty. So a lifetime in preparation is a lifetime of sadhana bhakti definitely prepares us well to enter into the realm of spontaneous devotional service. Is that helpful?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
This is Giovanna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, I have a question. I want to know, how do we serve Krishna by chanting? I know you talk about mood. How do we express the mood in chanting?
Okay. So how do we express the mood, this mood of service while we are chanting Krishna's holy names? Thank you for this wonderful question. Srila Prabhupada, he answered this question in a very simple way. He said, we should chant with our tongue, which basically means our tongue should enunciate, should properly pronounce the holy names, because that shows sincerity. So what it would mean is, not help your sound properly, sincerely, and hear with your ears. So the ears they need to have eagerness, which when we are eager to hear something, that is when we hear it clearly. So where does the eagerness for hearing come from? So to be able to hear what we chant, we must read about the holy names a lot. We must hear about the holy names a lot. We must reflect about what we have read. We should read about Krishna and understand how Krishna is non-different from the holy names. So there are so many wonderful books. Scriptures are vast, which describe in the greatest of detail this amazing, amazing world of Vaikuntha, this amazing world of devotees. It's amazing. And since all of that is non-different from the holy names, this practice is supposed to awaken that eagerness. It is like, just as the ears are eager to hear gossip. So this gossip about the gossip that is there in the scriptures, the kind of gossip or the kind of talk that is there in the scriptures, if that becomes very interesting by constant reading, by delving into it, then the ears are eager to hear the holy names. So we chant with our tongues, we hear with the ears, and we allow the holy names to enter our heart, our consciousness. This is the mood in which we chant the holy names. And Prabhupada would advise us that we should try to chant in this helpless mood of a child crying out for its mother. So when we hear about the glories of Krishna and we understand, we hear and read about the glories of the holy names, and we understand it's non-different, and we realize that hearing these holy names are important. Just as a child is eager to hear the voice of its mother, or hear somebody give some information about its mother, similarly, we need to find a way to cultivate that kind of intensity to hear the holy names. So through scriptures, through a regular reading of the scriptures at other times, other than chanting our regulated number of rounds, through rendering the rendering services with respect to the other limbs of devotional service. So there are 9 limbs of devotional service, so rendering service with respect to the other limbs of devotional service. The more we stay in contact with spiritual subject matter, the more eager we become, the more eager we are to hear about it. And when we can connect that, it's like doing exercise or practicing yoga. When through regular practice, you unlock some of those joints that have kind of been locked for years now, then you find that particular asana to be a little, you can do that asana, you can do that posture much more easily without pain. So when we unlock all those joints that have been kind of locked, closed through this yoga practice, through this practice of chanting the holy names. This is one of the asanas. We can consider this to be one of the asana, the posture of bhakti yoga. Chanting, uttering the sound with our tongue and hearing with our ears. It will unlock all those energy, plexuses. It will unlock that, so that it is not painful anymore. So right now it is theoretical. This is the process, this is a procedure that has to be followed. And when we follow it, we'll have our observations, we'll have our realizations. It will be lesser painful and more easy to chant the holy names in the proper service attitude. This is how we serve the holy names. Utter sincerely, hear eagerly, and for these to connect together, the other limbs of devotional service are helpful. Is that all right?
Thank you very much, Prabhu. It was very thoroughly explained.
Thank you. So is that all, Ramacharya Prabhu? I think you're moderating this.
Yes, Prabhu. It sounds like there is no question. So anybody has anything? I want to make sure that everybody is satisfied up to their full extent. If anything anybody has, we can take one more.
I'll ask some question, Prabhu.
Go ahead, Ravi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranams. It was a wonderful lecture. So I have a quick question about we hear the motivational lectures, so we'll be so motivated, and we'll be we want to be regular in our practice. But my question is like, how to be consistent, like, in our sadhana. So sometimes we feel like, okay, I hear everything good, like, we'll be more devoted to the Lord. But sometimes like we fall back, and how to be consistent in our sadhana.
So the question is how to be consistent in our sadhana. We have heard, and we need to work on being consistent in our sadhana. Few things, few tools. First of all, find a way to be personally motivated. You could have goals in mind. You could set goals. So find a way to be personally motivated. Reinforce that with association of like-minded people. So if you find a few other people who also are wanting to be consistent, and there is some kind of plan, you kind of come up with some ideas where everyone can work together. So that is very helpful. So first is personal motivation. Second is association of like-minded people. Then third is find a way to receive feedback. It could be feedback that you give yourself personally, and it can also be peer feedback, and it can be feedback from guides, personal guides, people that can be who could be your mentors. So have a process by which you could receive feedback. All three kinds are helpful. If you have all three, it is very wholesome. Personal feedback, because generally when we offer ourselves personally feedback, we are on the harsher side. And this gets complemented by or balanced by peer feedback and feedback by our peers and also by our mentors. And once you have had that, feel happy happy and grateful with your achievements. Offer a prayer, a sincere prayer of thanks. So these tools, I think, are helpful in being consistent. Is that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
So, Manik Nandan Sunrajan, I saw you raised your hand. So you have.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Sorry. Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just want to see you. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to see you.
Yep. Just want to say, like, Prabhuji, like, it's not a big question, but somebody asked me, but I couldn't answer, so I was just like, so when it's related to the mantra that when we are chanting. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, or Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Is it any different? Rama, Ram.
Since the mantra is a form of sound, sound affects the physical and the metaphysical. At the same time, as students of science, we also know that sound only affects when it is at a particular frequency.
Right.
So rather than be picky about whether it is Rama or Ram, we should be trying to focus on how we can create a proper frequency. Let us think that we are like the tuning fork, which has to vibrate at a particular frequency that we achieve the result, the desired result. So since our desired result is wanting to serve Krishna, Krishna by nature is bhavagrahi. Yes. So bhavagrahi means even if there are some shortcomings, if the tuning fork is vibrating sincerely, then those vibrations are accepted by Krishna. If the goal is something else other than Krishna, then it would be important that how you pronounce the sound. Is it all right?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Done.
Thank you so much, everybody, for such a beautiful questions. And once again, Prabhuji, super beautiful and in enrich. I had a very powerful day and wonderful association. So looking forward to have more association. And whenever time comes, if I approach you, kindly consider me as your humble servant and give us your association. Thank you so much. It was excellent. And looking forward to have more association as things are getting better. Definitely, I would like you to come here and have some, sort of seminar or some more association. So thank you so much. Dandavat Pranams.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I know I was a little bit late. We were a little bit late, but not a problem. Sometimes we have to do this. So thank you. Before we adjourn, we'll chant Vaishnava Pranams. Vanchkalpata Rubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evasya Patitanam Thank you. Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranams to all of you.